Well, hello, everyone. Again, my name is Kesley, and I will be your creative educator for this evening, working with your Juliet. Sorry, I'm just going to make sure I have everything up on my computer. Are you seeing the front camera? Oh, there we go.
We're
Okay,
seeing
great. I
you.
wasn't
Yeah.
sure if I was lagging. I just wasn't sure if I was lagging. Well, hello. Welcome in. We are going to talk about storage organization today and kind of how to get yourself organized using your Juliet to label and get yourself really set up to have a successful crafting rest of the year. I know we are in March, and just launching into spring cleaning. So this is the perfect time to get started. So for this workshop, we will be working with the Siser Juliet. It is a digital cutter that works with the Leonardo software. So we'll work our way back and forth between a few different views of things. So we'll do the software, we'll do the cutter, and I'll also do some overhead projects. So we'll be moving around quite a bit. But first, I sort of wanted to open up questions and get your thoughts on where your struggles might be with your organization. So in this workshop, we use the Q&A box, and I have it open. So if questions come up, I'll be able to see them. And Martina, if I miss it, Martina will read them out to me. So if you have a specific area that you're finding challenging, please let me know, and we will and I can address those questions. I'm not seeing my Q&A on my computer, so I may have to have you read those out to me as they come in, Martina, if you don't mind.
Yeah, of course. Give me 1 second. Because I also don't see it on mine. I see the chat, but not the Q&A.
Yeah. So
Let me
is
see
the
if I can
chat
figure
open? Maybe we don't have Q&A in this workshop. Maybe it's just the chat, which is fine.
Okay.
Oh, there, I see it now. Okay.
Okay.
See it now. All right, good. So if you have any questions or thoughts that you want to share throughout our workshop, please do drop them in the Q&A. This is an open back and forth and idea sharing. So please do drop those in the Q&A. Let's start talking about just kind of how to get organized when you start organizing, how to do it. So I've unfortunately and fortunately recently had a pipe burst in my craft space. So I had to remove everything out of my space and then bring it back in, which gave me a great opportunity to do two of the first steps that I always think is important when you're trying to organize. Not have a pipe burst. That is definitely not the first one. But the first one is to go through and kind of do a purge. And while you're purging, have 2 to 3 different categories of areas. So your first category when you're doing your purge will be trash. It's your paint may be dried up, you have old paint brushes, the glue doesn't stick anymore. Whatever it's not working or you're not going to use it, get it out of your space. Go ahead and throw it away and get it out of your space. If you have items that are still good to use, but maybe you're just not doing that hobby anymore, or you've moved on to a new favorite type of adhesive, for example, but you have 20 other adhesives still in your space. Do you really need that 20 adhesives, or are just 3 enough for you to work with? We have in my area on Facebook a group called Buy Nothing. And so if you have that type of group, it's fantastic. You can just list and say, I'm cleaning out my craft space. Here's a picture of the adhesives I have, or I'm not doing infusible ink anymore, but I bought this to try it. Or I thought I'd really get into resin, but I didn't, and I have this material. And you can list it up there, and people will say like, oh, I'd love to have that. Pick me. And they'll come by your house and pick up the items that you're not using. If you don't have a buy nothing, or that's not something you're comfortable with, do a donation. So what I like to do when I donate, and I do it this way because when I go to my donation spot, this is how I see them do it, is they have things grouped in bags. So if I have a bunch of paintbrushes that are still good, but maybe they're just not ones that I would use anymore, I'll put those all in a bag and then put those in my donation box. So that helps with your purge, is removing items either that are just they've seen the test of time and they're not something you're going to be using. They're not good anymore, so you're going to throw those away, or they're good but you're just not going to use them, so you donate those. So those are the first two piles that you'll have: trash, donate, and then your third pile is your keep pile. Now, as you're working on your keep pile, this is again where you're going to have subcategories. So think about, what is the hobby you're doing? Is it a sewing hobby, your resin hobby? Is it stamping? Whatever that hobby is or that category is, that's where you put all of the items. So I always kind of like to Marie Kondo and put like items together. So all of your scrapbook items are together. If you have photos and you're like, this is the year I'm going to start scrapbooking and I'm going to get everything organized, but your photos are in 5 or 6 different places in your home, bring them all together into one single location. If your paint supplies are all around the house, bring it together into one single location. That way, this kind of takes me into my second point, is organization is a time saver for you. So when you have your items, your scrapbook pages, maybe it's your stickers, maybe it's your photos, your stamps, your inks, when you have it all in the same spot, you're not looking in multiple places around your home or around your apartment to find what you need. You're just getting that one thing, you're able to pull it out and work with that one item, and it's all right there. So how do you keep it all organized? Well, there's a lot of different ways, and some of them are very traditional, where they might be, storage containers. Like this is a great photo storage container. Inside this type of container, you have a variety of individual little boxes that you can just put pictures from an event in one box. If you want to, you can label your envelope, your little boxes, so you know what those pictures are. So when you go to scrapbook it, you just grab these pictures, grab your paper and your embellishments, and you're ready to scrapbook. Another great use for these, my sister does this. She's a big knitter and a crochet person. So she has her double needles. She's the knitter, not me, but she used these and put every size of needle that she uses on here. And so she has a different container for each of her different size needles. And she has one for crochet hooks and different crochet hook sizes. If they fit in here, go in here. And it's not your stick, it's the needles that your knitting needles that have the loop on it. You know what, if you knit, you know what I mean. And that when she showed me that, I was like, oh my gosh, that's fantastic. What a great way to organize. Mine are just kind of in a container, but I never know exactly what size they are and where they fit into things. So, using a lot of the plastic storage that's available at Michael's is a great way to organize. You can use something for its intended purpose or change it up a little bit. So this is a container that's intended for cards, and I use this for my planning supplies. So in here, and I kind of took out some of them so I could show you the files, but in here I've used my cutter to cut out a vinyl and label my divider. So I can put filler pages in here, my list pages in here. I can have my health pages, previous years of my planner pages can all go in here, and it's in one container. So when I go to set up my next month, or I go to, create lists or something like that, I know where all of my paper is. It's in this one box, and I don't have to pull things out. It doesn't get other things stacked on top of it or left in a bag. How many of us are guilty of coming home with new supplies that you're really excited about, but maybe you don't need them right away? and they stay in the bag. And you need to get those things out of the bags. I think that's one of the worst things I do is I'll leave something in a bag and a month later I'm like, I know I bought that. Where did I put it? So if I can quickly get it out of the bag, put it in the organization system that it belongs in, that's a big time saver for me. And then as you are working on your organization, cords, let's talk about all the different cords that you have. So I like to use these kinds of bins. These I got from IKEA. But these are because, and I liked them because they had the lid and they stack on top of each other. But again, I can just label my bins depending on how they're going to go on my shelf. So these bins here, let me grab these go on my shelf sideways. So all of these are labeled and I can just, if I have, multiples of something, they go into one bin. I put the top on it. I know what's in here. Every time I need one of these tools, I just have to go to where this bin is in my closet and I can pull it out. Now, the other little trick I'll share with you on this is I have my vinyl color that matches this. So if I ever need to change out my bin or I'm doing something different and I don't need this anymore, if I can peel this label off or I can just turn it over and redo the vinyl on that side. But if you like everything to be matching, this is the only use I will use this vinyl for, this particular color, is right here. And I have it in a little tube. It's in the depths of a drawer I pulled out today just to share with you guys. And so I put that in here. So as you're organizing, start thinking about, okay, these are all adhesives. I'm going to put these all together. These are my heat guns. I'm going to put these all together. And then do, like a hunt around your house. What empty bins do you have? Do you have empty plastic bins? Do you have empty baskets? Even like jars that you may have, like your spaghetti jars or things like that. These are great to label, and I'll show you how we label jars. But jars are great to label and put paintbrushes or particular pens in. Those are great. So you want to, once you find your containers, you want to label those containers. Obviously, if they're clear, you'll be able to see, what you have in there. But like these guys, if it's not clear, I know what's in this particular bin versus the other bins that are there. So those are some of the tips I have there. And the bins allow you to stack things up. So think about like, how can you organize vertically in a closet? Like if you have to stack things one on top of the other. These do, my 3 little bins here, these do go in my closet and they do stack up. And when I have to get to the bottom, I have to take them all out and then grab my bottom one. That's not that big an inconvenience for me, so I'm okay with that. But if that is an inconvenience for you, then you may want to think of a different way to store them. But pulling them in and out is not a problem for me. But think outside your box, right? So as you're gathering your storage containers, think about, like I have this little bin that I labeled with I have a sticker for everything using vinyl. And that just goes anywhere I need it to go. And that's where I keep my daily organization, things like that. So, so those are all like, I think the big thing is do your purge, organize into the groups, go through your house, find all your empty containers, and then go and fill in with extra containers that you need. So so like these kinds of containers, you can either use recycled containers or get new ones. I absolutely fell in love with these bins and they're so full, I couldn't bring them over. But these are great because they'll hold, if you do vinyl, so if you have your Siser and you're working with vinyl, they'll hold 3 different vinyls across the top. So our first project is going to be labeling a bin like this. So this is just a plastic bin. I'm going to use permanent vinyl. Now, permanent vinyl is great because you can use it indoors or outdoors. So if you're labeling gardening supplies, and these are great. Think about this little box for your seeds and organize your seeds into here. But if you're organizing things or want to label like where garden tools go or anything like that, permanent vinyl is a good vinyl to use for that. If you're labeling like children's toys around the house or something that's going to be changing a lot, you might want to use removable vinyl for that type of thing, and just be able to change out your vinyl as you go very easily to peel it off. Now, I usually can peel off my vinyl pretty easily if I get my fingernail or my weeding tool underneath there. So that helps me pull that off. Another thing, if you are doing an organization for, say, like you're going to organize by season, and maybe this is we're getting into the Easter, spring crafting, summer crafting. So you may want to have a bin that's like your seasonal one. Use removable vinyl, and then you can peel that right off. So let me share with you. I'm going to share my monitor. Were there any questions, Martina, that I missed or anything?
Not that I can see now.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure you don't miss anybody. All right, so I'm going to share my screen and we'll go into the Leonardo software. So, so this is my software, the Leonardo software. I went ahead and pulled up a design page so I can go ahead and start designing. And I just need to grab a ruler and measure how big I want my design to be. So I have 3 inches in height and about 5 inches wide. So my box is about a 3 by 5 size box. I'm just going to add, gotta get this a little bit smaller. I'm going to add a text onto my box. It'll be 3 inches by 5 inches, and I can just choose what font I'd like to use. You can use any font that you'd like. I do kind of like to use a chunkier font for something like this, but you can go with more of a handwritten font if you want to. And so for this box, I'm going to label this one heat transfer vinyl. So this box will hold all of my heat transfer vinyl. If you have a variety of manufacturers for your heat transfer vinyl, you can change, add your manufacturer or anything like that onto the label. So the width, let's go 4 inches wide and see about how big this would be. So this is 4 inches by 2 inches tall, 1.5 inches tall. I'm going to go a little bit taller. So we're going to just go, let's go 5 inches wide, see what that gives us, a little bit taller. So 5 inches by almost 2 inches. So I'm pretty good with that. So that will be my first vinyl that I'll be cutting. Now I'm going to go ahead and send that design right on over to my cutter. And I'm just going to do the selected artwork on my mat. So I'm going to send that over. As you can see, it shows up where it was positioned on my mat. And I'm going to bring it down to the beginning spot right there. Okay, so, and then all I need to do is send the design over. I want to make sure that I have the right tool selected, and I'm going to use the Siser standard blade. And let's check our cut settings on the cutting tool. So our speed is 12 and our force is 145. And I think that I'll add an auto weed box. So that'll make it a little easier to weed around that, that material. And I'll put it on the cutting mat instead of using a material roll. So if I were just using the roll of material, I would just put it on the material roll, but I'm going to put it on the cutting mat. And then my next step will be to send it to the cutter. So if we could go to the overhead, I'll just show you how to set up your mat with your material. So you get it you get it placed in the right spot on your mat. Now for this one, I can just use a little piece of some, let's see, we'll use my green material here. So this is permanent vinyl. This happens to be from Cricut. So the first thing I'm going to do is remove that little clear plastic sleeve on my cutting mat. I am using the high-tech cutting mat, and it's going to go into my machine and cut right here in this lower left-hand corner here. We're going to have that cut right there. And that's all you have to do to place it on your mat. You want to use your little squeegee here to make sure it's going to stick onto your mat and not slide around. And then we're ready to send that over to our machine. So I'll go back into my software and send that over. Okay. Now, before I send it over, let's go back to our my front-facing camera if we can. Okay, because I'm just going to slide my mat in, and I'm actually going to slide it in from the back here. So I'm going to open up my clamps, make it really easy to get it to slide in and get that lined up. I do it this way because it's a little bit challenging from the way I have my cutter set up here. So you guys can see it front facing. So before I actually cut my material, I want to do a test cut. So once I have my mat lined up, on my monitor here, I'm going to do a test cut. And there's like a little t-shirt circle with a t-shirt on there. And we're just going to do a little test cut onto the material. What the test cut does is it's just testing that I have the right cut settings. So once I've tested it, I'll just pop it out again and make sure that it indeed did the cut. So I can see the cut here. And using my weeding tool, can I just pop out that vinyl? Very easily comes out. So I have the right settings. Now, the reason that I do this is one of the great things, and I'm just going to switch my paper around. One of the things I really like about the Siser Juliet is it's kind of an industrial machine. So the way the blade is set up, you can adjust the blade very easily to fit your needs. So you have more control over the blade settings than maybe some of your other digital cutting options. But that also means for me, because I sometimes will change my blade around and forget that I did that, that I always like to do a test cut there and make sure that my material is going to cut through very easily and I don't have any problems with it. Now, as this is cutting through, I'm just going to grab some transfer tape, and you can mix and match your transfer tape as long as you're using, since I have just standard vinyl, I just am going to use a standard grip transfer tape. We will work with material that requires a little bit more strong grip next. So once I have that done, I can go back over to the overhead camera. What I like to do when I take it off my mat is I'll turn my mat over and then peel my design off my mat that way. So I turn my mat over there. Ooh, that was a little aggressive, my cut. Okay. So that cut a little bit deeper than I had intended, and a little bit deeper than my test cut. Interesting. I don't know why that happened, but it did. That's okay. So for this one, I think what I'm going to do, let me just move that out of the way there. Get this in the center. So for this one, we're just going to do a little bit of a reverse weed, and I'll put my transfer tape right on the top of it and pick it all up with my transfer tape so that I keep everything in the right position. So let's get our backing off our transfer tape. That's always the challenge, doing that. And then here we go here. And again, you'll just use your squeegee over that. And since we're doing the reverse weeding, we just need to take off completely the outline of our cut. We're going to take off all of that. And then we will have to individually remove the backing on each letter, which is not a big deal. We'll use your weeding tool, poke that piece in there and make sure you're just getting the backing, the carrier sheet, not your actual material. We'll say this is easier, sometimes the other way. Actually, and you can probably just feel like I'm getting it through there. What if my cut settings changed between what I had on the machine when I did the test cut? You know what? I'm going to cut another piece. I'm struggling with that a little bit and I'm poking through it, and it'll just take me 2 seconds to cut another piece. And I'd rather do that. So this time I'm going to go into my software, and instead of relying on the settings that I had in the software itself, I'm going to just change that, and I'll use the settings on the cutter. So you can put the settings on your cutter, or you can have the settings on the software. It's kind of cool, like you have options. But as you can see, that used the settings that were on the cutter. I mean, the settings that were on the software and not the cutter. So let's come on back over. We will put this back into our lovely machine, our little Juliet. And I'm going to use the cut settings that are on the machine this time and not the software. Software force was at 145, and my machine itself, let's check our cut settings here, are at 20. So that was a big difference there. So we'll use the cut settings that are on the cutter. We'll send that over, and we'll just restart that process. I'm so sorry about that, but at least you get to see. I always say, like when I do these live classes and I make a mistake like that, I always think, well, at least you learn from my mistakes. We did our test cut, but our test cut was based on the settings that were on the machine and not the software. So just keep that in mind. You have 2 options to do that. Okay, so let's come back over. Now that that has cut out, I'll flip it over and we'll peel that right off. The reason I flip my mat over and peel my design off that way is that I don't want to, when you work with paper on your cutting mats, the paper can curl on the cutting mat. So I tend to always flip my mat over and remove my mat from my material. Let's just make sure we've got our spot. There we go. So when you have your right cut settings, it should weed out that easily. Which now we've got, oops, our good cut settings. There we go. Got a little excited there, didn't I? All right. Get that down nice and even. All right, so there we go. And now we'll just go back to the same process and take our transfer tape. Now you could, with like this type of design, since you have these big letters, it would be relatively easy to just pick those up and move them. But we're going to grab our transfer tape here and use our wedge here, and then just turn that over and peel off that carrier sheet just like this. So you want to just push down and kind of, I do like a little roll there. And then let me see if I can do this. I think, you know what? I think I'll have to do this from the front. Sorry to make you flip it again, but if we do it from the front, it might be a little easier.
No worries.
So once you have it cut out, you're just going to line it up. Now you can use the grid lines, and I would probably, it's hard to do it backwards, but you guys will get the idea. So I've lined up the bottom of my transfer tape with the bottom of the crate, and then I can just use my wedge there, make sure that's squeezed down, and then we will carefully peel off our transfer tape. A little crooked there. You know, if I were doing this facing it, it would be centered. I should have peeked, but there you go. So, wow, it's off-centered and crooked. But if you can, I'll just tell you, you can peel this up and move it. After about 24 hours, it gets a little bit trickier. So I will probably take that off, recut it, and just line it up properly. But you get, I just want to give you guys the idea. Now I can just take all of my heat transfer vinyl and put it in this container and put it in my closet. And then I can just pull this out as I go. If you have multiples, like if you have different manufacturers of heat transfer vinyl, if you want to put them in different bins, you can certainly do that, or do it by color. That's a fun way to do it too. You know, put your pastels and your primaries and then your fancy glitters and things like that in a different container. But labeling your containers like this, you can see how easy it is. Use the grids on your transfer tape to line it up. That was just a little, sorry about that one, got off. But let's do now, if you're using, say, you've gone through your house and you found some baskets laying around that you want to use instead of something plastic to put your heat transfer vinyl in, or your fabrics or something like that, you can pretty much grab these acrylic tags that are at Michael's. These are so fun. So this acrylic tag, I've gone ahead and added some paint. I want it to be dry. And then we have this shimmer gold, this Make Market. This is a Make Market satin matte. And let's do a label for that one. So again, same technique. I'll put my vinyl on my design, on my mat. And since this one's kind of a little cutesy with the acrylic label, this is a luggage tag. And I've got that pink paint. So I kind of want to do maybe something a little cursive, a little fancier on the back of it. So I'm going to share my screen and we'll go back into the software. And we'll do another design. And this is great. You can do this kind of thing in your kids' rooms. If you're designing different, like if you're trying to get them organized, like you want to put all their shoes in one spot or socks and underwear, and you just want to have it all in a basket, taking these little tags and adding a name to it is so easy. So let's see, for this one, I'm looking around, what was I gonna put in this one? I think my planner stickers will fit in there. So I want to do like a little bit fancier font, so maybe something cursive. And let's put in seasonal stickers would go in this bin. Seasonal, okay? And so we're going to apply that onto our canvas. And again, we just need to grab that ruler and make sure we have the right size. So I don't want this to be longer than 3 inches. So over on the right side, I'm just going to change my width to 3 inches. And so this is 3 inches by 1 inch high. Could go a little bit taller. So again, I could come back in and change that font around, maybe something that's a little bit taller. If I have something that's a little bit taller, all your fonts in your software come from your own font library. So if you have fonts that you've uploaded into your font library, they will all appear in the Leonardo software. So you can go and purchase fonts online. You can add fonts to your own program, and then they're going to show up here. So let's do that one. Let's see if that one gives me a little bit more height there. No, it's smaller. Okay. Sorry, guys. Let's see. Maybe something just a little chunkier. I do like the cursive though, with the gold. Get the look. Oh, I know which one I want. Let's go down a little bit. This is a great one, wedding. That's a cute one. And we'll just say seasons. There we go, holiday. Apply that one, and then let's make it 3 inches in the width, and we'll just cut that one out, and you'll see how cute it's going to be. Okay, so this one does go, the Y goes a little bit longer, it goes dips down a bit, so we're going to go take that height a little bit, go 4 inches wide. All right, so there we go. There's a little bit bigger, and we're ready to cut that design. So we'll send that over. Only the selected artwork. Now, if you wanted to, let's just talk about, like, if you have a bunch of different baskets and you're going to do, let's say, a variety of titles. So maybe you're going to do school stickers or you're organizing your photos. You can take this one design and copy and paste it. So if you click on it, you can copy and paste it. Oops. Doesn't let me do it. Control copy, control paste. There we go. So now I have a variety of them, and then you can just click on it. So if you're doing your children's names or anything like that, you can just change those around for whatever you want to put on your stickers, on your labels. So if I were going to do a sticker bin for school, for health, for family stickers, or fun, boss, boss or work, let's just do work stickers. I could just do all those on here and cut them at one time. So I'll put these all individually down towards the bottom where I have my paper already. See, we'll do it like that. And then when I send my design over, I want to make sure that I have all the artwork selected, not just the one that's on there. And then we can send that over. Now, I may want to stretch those out a little bit and move them around so they have a little bit more room. So I can just do one box, do one at a time. Sorry about that. Let's make sure that's okay. Good. All right, so I'm just going to push that up a little bit and push this guy up a little bit, just manually. And then we'll, again, put our material on our mat and send that over to our design. So we're ready. I'm going to use my cutter settings again, not risking that. So we'll just use the same settings I had from the previous one. And I'm just going to load my mat in here. And let's stop share. There we go. All right, so I've got my mat loaded in, and you'll see that where the blade is, that's where you want, where the blade starts is where you want the corner of your material to be. So if you want to, if you put your material on the middle of your mat or something like that, you can just move your blade over using the dial, and then it will cut wherever you suggest the start point is. I usually pick that like little front corner there as my start point, and then it'll just cut from there. So we're just going to cut that one out. Now, I'll show you before I pull that one out, how I did my little, these little things. So these are the acrylic tags, Make Market acrylic tags. I really love these for our organization because they have a loop on them already. So you can add that to your basket really easily, or you could change this out and do a shorter tag if you wanted to. But you can just loop this back through, undo it, loop it in, and I'll show you how to do that. Hopefully I'll be able to do this all on the overhead. Now the mats, if I get one question I get a lot is, what do I do if my mat loses the adhesive on it? It's no longer sticky. If that ever happens, you can use baby wipes to clean it off and get that stick to come back on. So now let's just cut the weeding box and we'll bring it over to our overhead. Again, I just always remove it this way, take that adhesive off the back, and then we can come back over here. and I'll show you what I did to get started. I'm just going to bring us back over to the overhead. There we go. Okay, so for this, I went ahead and I just am using like an acrylic paint. Your acrylic piece has like a plastic covering on both sides. So again, grab that weeding tool very carefully. You want to scoop out that clear plastic piece there so that you expose the acrylic that you're working with. And I like to just, I live on the edge here a little bit. I'm just going to put a little squirt of paint on my acrylic and then use my paintbrush and carry that across my paint. Now you can let it dry and then do a second coat. You can do a little heavier first coat if you want to, anything like that. I really love the idea of adding the color to the back, especially if you want to be able to identify something in the moment. So I'm going to set this one aside. We'll let that one dry. I've got a few that I've already painted, and we'll be working on the opposite side that we've painted. So if you're organizing things for like kids, or maybe you have 5 different baskets and you're going to do a different hobby in each basket, you could color code it. So you may have, you know, your blue, a blue paint could be one hobby, a pink paint could be another hobby, and you can just work your way through your different hobbies based on your different colors. So again, we'll just pop this right out of this vinyl. In the Michael store, you will see in their technology department aisle, there are lots and lots of options for different types of vinyl that you can work with. Different manufacturers, you have rolls of vinyl, printed vinyl, so many different types of vinyls that you really have a lot of options. So this one's a little bit thicker. Let me just come back over here. I just want to make sure that everything peels off nicely. And I remove it. So I just kind of hold my finger over where I'm removing the vinyl from, so it doesn't pop off by accident and pull up part of my design that I don't want it to pull up, especially if I'm working with small details like these little letters, the swoops on the letters and things like that. You may just want to be careful with that. And then again, just come on back with your weeding tool and pop out the center of your pieces. There we go. I'm just going to work our way all the way across. All right. So again, this is just a little matte vinyl, so I can use the same piece of tape, transfer tape that I used before to pick this up. So I'll put a little bit of it on my work surface and line up the bottom of my transfer tape with the carrier sheet. So I've got that lined up right there. So it's going to go straight on to my design. Use your wedge and give that a nice little work through. And then we'll just peel that right off. And there is a library of shapes and images within your Leonardo software. So if you wanted to, you know, find like a quote or something like that, you could certainly add that to your project. So these are going to be like my work stickers. Again, I'm going to use my transfer tape and make sure I've got this lined up properly so I can line that up on that top square there and just adjust it a little bit. Got a little crooked there. There we go. And then I'm going to work out any bubbles before completely removing my transfer tape. So we'll just kind of go like this, work out any bubbles, take that off and go right like that. And now you have your label, it's ready to go. you can, again, come back with your wedge and make sure everything is down and there's no bubbles in your work. So you can just put that right there. And there we go. How fun is that? And then I will just take this off and work it back into my basket. Let's see. So we have like our lid of our basket there. And we want to just loop this piece into your basket. I have a little wedge here, a little opening. Sure I do. Yeah, there's a good little spot right there. So we're just gonna, oops, that little plastic piece right into there. Right. Make sure you have your label on. It's going to be facing out. And then that will just pop on there and tighten that up like that. So when I put all my sticker books in here that are work related, I'll be able to see how everything fits in here. I don't know if you want to go back to the front so you can see how that goes together. So now I've got my little work label is right there and I've got that ready to go. Isn't that cute? And then you can do the same thing like with your, how are we doing on time? Okay, we're good. So like with these types of containers, if you wanted to label this for your pens, or if you were going to, trying to think of like all the different things I would put in here. I would put pens in here. I would put paintbrushes in here, anything like that. So we'll just take, again, same technique. We're just going to put our vinyl back on here, go back into our program. You know what? I think I'm not gonna do this one because I want to show you guys two other things and we're running out of time. It always happens to me. I get so excited with so many different ideas, but one cool thing about the Leonardo, the Juliet, is that it comes with this little adapter. So you can actually use different pens in your machine and draw with the different pens. Your Bic pen really fits in here the best, but I couldn't find a Bic pen in my house for the whole week. I was looking all over the house. So I have this little pen here, which I just tried. I was like, well, you know what? That works. So you just push that down into the adapter and then you can unscrew your blade and we're going to put this adapter pen in here. So you just put it back in, give it a good push down. You want to make sure that your pen is kind of coming out on the bottom. And different pens will work a little bit differently. So practice with a few different ones until you get one that you like. I want to make sure my pen tip is pointing down, which it is. Okay, my pen tip is down. Now for this, I thought what I did in this case, my photo case, I showed you those labels. So I have this one here that's labeled 2014 Adam Lacrosse. So if you want to make labels you want to write things onto labels, maybe you're doing a little more information or something like that. So you want to actually write something more. This is a great technique. So Cricut has this smart paper and it has, it's a sticker cardstock. So it's actually a cardstock that has a sticker paper on the back of it. And this is just perfect for this type of project. So I'm just going to give myself a fresh start here, and then we'll go into the software and make a label. If I were wanting to do this in a special shape, I would probably cut the shape first and then add the label onto it. But if you're just doing like a square or something like that, you can just go right into the software and make a label. So I think this is I love that you have the pen feature and that you can use a variety of different pens in here. You have a little bit more control. But one thing to keep in mind is that the pen will actually just do an outline of the font. So in this case, if I just pick, even if I pick a simple text, So let's do like Adam 2024 or 2025. So these could be his pictures from 2025. So I'm planning ahead. And I can just put these onto my label. So we'll just kind of bring this one down like this. Now, what I want you to notice, so it looks like it would just draw those lines. When I send this to the design, what happens is it actually does an outline of those letters. So it will do an outline of the letters. So, which is still, I mean, it's still going to be cute. So I'm okay with that. You just want to change your blade and you want to say that you're using the pen tool and that your material is on a cutting mat and you're using a pen tool. And then you can just send that to the cutter. If you wanted to add a cut to it, you'd have to add a second layer to cut out your shape, which you can do. But I want to show you all how to just do that part of it. So let's go ahead and get that in, and I'll close up my clamp here. Make sure I'm positioned properly, and then we'll send that on over. Send to cutter. So one thing is like the different pens that Siser does have pens that you can use, so you get better results with their pens than with just a pen. But I wanted to show you the pen because I wanted you to see that you have so many options that you can create your own. And then if you wanted to go in and write on it, you could certainly do that. I didn't use my squeegee to make sure it was stuck down. And I noticed this is wiggling around a little bit. So I'm not going to get really great results there. All right. So my results are not super fabulous. I'm sorry. Let me see. I'm looking for my other piece that I had already cut out. Let me grab a new piece and make sure I get this in there all the way. Because I don't want this to be wiggling around. All right, let's grab another piece here. Just so you can see, because this really is cool. Get that situated. Use my squeegee, make sure I've got it stuck down nicely. Now, if you're using a full sheet of this material, you don't have to use the cutting mat. So you can use a full sheet, like a 12 by 12 sheet. I happen to have the Cricut Joy size handy, so that's what I used on this particular project. So let me go there. All right, I really want to make sure this is in and pushed down. Again, it is like I've done this so many times, and it's so fun to do it. And I just have there we go. Okay, so let's send that over to the cutter. And let's hope my pen doesn't wiggle around on me this time. So you guys can see. And this is also a really fun way to label containers in your, think about like all the labels you can make for your pantry, not just your craft space. Another, I like to organize my projects, and I'll put my projects in different types of containers. So for example, like I'll use these containers if I'm working on a series of projects, and these are great because you can put, this holds all of my extra vinyl, but you can put yarn in here. So if you have like a specific yarn project that you're working on, you can put your yarn in this type of project and label it with what you're working with. Or they have on one of the walls, they have these like plastic sleeves, and these are great because they're flexible. So you can put your project in here, label it. So if you bought yarn to make a hat, and now it's spring and you're thinking like, oh, I'm not going to make a hat, but I want to make that next year. You don't want to lose the colors of yarn that you had and brought together. So you want to keep them with each other. And so a great little plastic baggie like this will just stick your yarn in there and zip it up. You can put your pattern in there and everything. Draw out your label. You can even draw like, let's see, do you want to do the overhead so you can see how this one came out? So there's the Adam 2025, a little bigger than I would want, but then I would just take my paper trimmer and trim it down, and I can put this onto, really, you can put this on anything. If you have a student in school and they're bringing home their craft projects from school and you just kind of need to tuck them away, you're not going to scrapbook them, but you don't want them to clutter your craft space. This is a great way. You can take one of those plastic bins and put their items in there just like that. And then you've got it labeled with their name and everything. So these smart papers are really fun. You can cut them out into shapes and then write on it yourself if you want to. I have paper a long time ago that, okay, we can go back to the overhead. To the front. I have my paper rack. One of my children helped me organize all my colors, and I still have the colors in their handwriting in the stack. And it's just, and they were probably like 10 or 11 when they did it. So it's just cute. It's like their little, their old stuff. One last thing I'll share. I always like your fabric. If you are getting into sewing, and I don't know if you guys have checked out Michael's recently, but they have like aisles of fabric, and my store was putting out new designs today. I was so excited. But I like to grab a foam core board and I cut it down to the size I want. So you can cut this down to any size you want. And then I wrap my cloth onto the board and it looks like a little book. So I have a bookshelf and I have all of my fabric on here, and it's just super easy to just wrap it on there. So you just open it up, stick your board in there, and then wrap it. And I put pins in it to hold it in place. But then this will all go together and go into my board. So this is a great way to organize fabric that you don't want to lose. If you have t-shirts, you could do the same thing with t-shirts. If you didn't want to get them, out of sorts. I do have a drawer in my craft space and I made little tab dividers that I put small, medium, large, extra large in there. Another thing I will say that I was thinking this would be great for, if you do sublimation and you have a lot of different types of blanks, if you have different tumblers and different types of blanks, this is a great basket to put your different blanks in. And then you can have like a row of your blanks on your shelf and you have your little label on there. So thank you guys for joining me. I hope I've given you all some ideas on how to get organized, how to use your Juliet to cut vinyl, write your labels and everything like that. So thank you so much. And I hope you have a great night and a great weekend. It's almost the weekend. Time to declutter.